Exciting.
Recording in progress. Welcome, everybody. I see numbers increasing steadily there. People are starting to log in to today's webinar. My name is Kieran Farrell. I'll be the host today. I work with Horizon NUA, looking after the Connecting Nature Enterprise platform. Today's webinar is how we brought nature-based solutions to market. And before we get started, I'm going to run through a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'll introduce our guests before we get started. In terms of housekeeping, what to do. If you would like to ask any questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end of this. So please pop them into the Q&A function on Zoom. We will also enable the chat shortly, so you can add any comments in there throughout the conversation. But let's keep questions to the Q&A section. For those who don't know, let me go through what is the Connecting Nature Enterprise platform. So this platform is a marketplace and a network. It's made up of a number of communities of practice for nature-based enterprises, really. Nature-based enterprises is an umbrella term for private and third sector organizations who are working with and for nature, generally in the delivery of nature-based solutions. Each of our communities of practice then has an ambassador whose role is to lead that community and help to grow it. And so I guess the ambassadors and leaders for our green buildings community is who we have with us today. That's Moein Nodehi and Miguel Villen Molina from Biotonomy. So Moein is an architect by trade. He's the CEO and founder. And Miguel is the Director of Business Development with Biotonomy. They started out working in autonomous buildings and work across everything from permaculture design centers to green walls, circular wastewater management, and are trailblazers and inspirational community leaders and trusted partners today in the city of Malaga. Then just before I introduce the guys, I wanted to just mention why we are hosting today's webinar. To cover that, the Connecting Nature Enterprise platform is managed by an organization called Horizon NUA. And we work on a number of research and innovation projects in the area of nature-based solutions. One of those is Invest for Nature, whose logo you can see to my right, I think. And Invest for Nature conducted a survey with nature-based enterprises to understand the supply side of nature-based solutions. So while demand is growing, what are we doing in terms of scaling the supply of nature-based solutions? And then another element of a project we work in called NBS Eduworld is looking at education around nature-based solutions in both primary school, secondary level, and third level, as well as vocational. And so this survey, I guess, disclosed through that nature-based enterprises are often looking to develop their skills and grow their ability in sales, marketing, and business development. And in discussing this with Moein and Miguel, we came up with the idea for today's topic, where the guys would be able to share their journey and their learnings as a nature-based enterprise working in the area of green buildings and nature-based development. So without further ado, I will introduce Moein and Miguel and invite them to tell us a little bit about themselves and their organization, Biotonomy.
Thank you, Kieran. Yeah, first of all, thank you everyone for taking your time and joining us. We wanted this to be, it's maybe described as a webinar, but we wanted to keep this more of a relaxed conversation between us here, but also you guys. So please before I get started, please let us know in the chat where you're from, and if you have any questions as the conversation is going on, please throw your questions out there. We're more than happy to address them. And I think before anything, I just want to put it out there. We're not here to state that we're any form of sales and marketing gurus by profession, but we have our personal experience that we've implemented, and it's started to work out. We've done so much mistakes throughout our decade of trying it out, but we've actually found a formula that is working for us. And we thought it would be a great honor to actually share with the rest of you, because I know I attend a lot of these webinars that Connecting Nature is hosting, and I can see a lot of people struggling, and also the big research that Connecting Nature has done. We also understand that a lot of people are struggling with sales and marketing, and so have we. But let me give you a little bit context of our story, and also a little bit context of myself and where all of this kind of, now that I'm in this age, I can think back a little bit and think of the moments in my life that actually put me in a position of building an organization like this. I was born in Iran, in Persia, and I was born in the middle of a war. And when I was already 2 years old, my family was forced to leave our own country, not by will, just because of our safety. And we came to an unknown country where we didn't speak the language. And I grew up in an immigration camp. So as I was growing up, I was surrounded by people who had to be very creative to make ends meet work by the end of the day, right? And being young, being in a country, I was in Sweden, and I learned the language before my parents. So I had to always like take initiatives and help my parents out. And I grew up in an entrepreneur family. Like I grew up seeing my parents always pivoting, trying out different businesses, everything from, selling sandwiches in the immigration camp to, taking care of, my mom would take care of the children, etc., etc. So I kind of grew up in that family and always being moved, that for me pivoting and adapting kind of was natural, I think. And then as I grew up, I created this big passion for ancient architecture, because my parents would always, instead of telling me stories about the war from our countries, they would always tell me the beautiful stories of like ancient civilizations, how they would, live in harmony with nature. So I built this interest about ancient architecture. So I decided to go to architectural and engineering school, and I had, through my contacts, the opportunity to get a job in one of the biggest construction projects in the world. And I was there in hope of, learning from the best, because they're building, big projects. But it was actually my experience there that really opened up my eyes. It really started with like seeing the social injustice in the construction projects.
This was in Dubai, right?
In Dubai, exactly. This was in Dubai. And it just didn't resonate with me, to me being earning so good, and there was so many workers that were not barely paid, and really treated badly. And also me witnessing that, those big projects were cheating a lot when it came to the function of the building. I witnessed basically they had no sewage system and they would basically just throw it out into the environment. And slowly, I realized that I don't want to contribute to this, right? So I decided, without having a plan, I just knew that I don't want to contribute to this, right? Normally, we wait for making a plan before making a change, but I just knew I need to get out of here. So I left for me, that was me leaving the conventional construction, right?
Sure.
I left without a plan, but I went for my passion, ancient architecture. I started basically looking on the market and see what are people doing in terms of sustainability.
Hmm.
And what I found was not that impressive for me. I didn't find the solutions on the market to be ambitious enough, right? It was
Sure.
about being energy efficient mostly, trying to build with more natural materials, and that was it. And while I was studying ancient architecture, I felt like there's so much more solutions that we can bring to the market. So I decided to basically, after traveling around the world and joining many different people who were already in the journey of changing the market and learning from them, I decided that I'm going to develop a concept that is to the level of ambitious that I was looking for. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's a little bit how the idea of biotonomy started being built in my mind. And
I think you had mentioned when we were talking, Moein, that as it started and the world of, I guess, your vision and purpose for indigenous buildings and the potential for ecosystem services integration wasn't really being realized. But I think you were saying then that you got to Malaga and you got stuck in Malaga when COVID happened, and that was when you met Miguel, I believe. But I was particularly interested in your story that Biotonomy and your success with Miguel was really birthed or started out of the failure of 4 other businesses and your learnings from that.
Yeah, that's correct. Prior to biotonomy, yeah, I tried 4 times to do the same thing, and many times with different people. And like you mentioned, they all failed for different reasons. Mostly, they went bankrupt because, started a long time ago. There wasn't a platform like Connecting Nature. There was nothing out there that really supported you. So it was really just trying it out. And but I always knew every time I fell, I always felt more encouraged. I was like, okay, everything I learned, now I know I'm gonna do it different, right? And like you mentioned, I came to Malaga I had a client here. I came to do a project here, and actually, right before COVID, what happened to me was that I spent many years of building a network in the US. So I built a network, I built a strong collaboration with different partners and a team of people. And actually what happened was that when Trump became president and he banned people from Iran entering the US, that's kind of when I realized, whoa, I need to start rethinking because I'm not going to be able to enter and work with my partners. And then after that also came the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, Biotonomy at that stage was a global company because there wasn't enough demand for us to survive in one country. We were forced in doing projects around the world, especially in more poorer country that was truly lacking infrastructure, that didn't have access to water and power and sewage. So we did a lot of projects, you know, in Africa, in Indonesia, in Philippines, in South America, different parts of it, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile. So when the pandemic hit, we couldn't travel. So all the network, all the clients basically were not able to execute our projects. So I had to start from zero, basically. And I was telling Miguel the other day that, and he knows it well. I as a person, I don't go out. Like I'm pretty obsessed with work, so I don't go out. I don't party. But when I was new in Malaga, the only way for me to meet people was to go out. So I actually went out. I went out to the bars to meet with people, and I was just pitching my idea to different people. And Miguel happened to be one of those people that I was harassing in the bar, just talking about nature-based solution and what I wanted to do. And you were really the one that really picked it up, no? Mm-hmm. And you were also like in a state in your life where you were like willing to change and go for like a different direction.
It definitely charmed me at that time. And yeah, for sure. I was at the time I was working as a strategy consultant for this world of sustainable how do you call it? Official development aid. So basically, I was working as a consultant for a company. We were advising governments, mainly in Africa and Latin America, on large-scale projects, anything from tourism to environmental to social to infrastructure, on their strategy, to how to design projects that would help like address both the economical side, environmental and social, and promote growth of the country. And very focused on, our clients were the public sector, so mainly government of ministries of these developing countries, were looking to set up, because the public sector cannot promote growth, cannot do growth by its own. It needs to promote, it needs to set up a good framework for the private sector to thrive and therefore promote the economy this way, right? So that's what we're saying. So we were basically very specialized in public-private collaboration, and this kind of triangle of promoting both economy, environment, and social in parallel, right? To make sure that this money was invested well for the growth of the country. And so basically and I was kind of at the moment I was a bit stuck because I've been working there for several years and very focused on strategy, right? And I've never been involved in executing projects, right? I was very involved in designing projects and then giving recommendations, but didn't.
Sitting behind a desk.
Exactly. So I didn't want to be the guy behind the desk smoking cigars and telling people you should do this other way, because I read that this experience went well and this other experience went bad because of that, and so and so and so, right? I wanted to get my hands dirty and try my design things that I would then execute and then learn from it, adapt, pivot all the way. So when I met with Moein, and obviously all the concept of biotonomy and how it's promoting shifting the way we're designing and building buildings and cities, so that it promotes these three the benefits at the same time, both economically but socially and environmentally. But also not only that, but he was coming from a context in which designers were also involved in the construction, right? So the people that would design would also be in the construction, building with their hands, And not only that, but they were also teachers, and then they were doing academy programs, and every time there was a building, they would, like, students could join and have hands-on experience and hands-on learning during the construction of the project. So
This
that's
sounds a bit,
sorry.
sorry, I was going to say that it sounds like the nature-based solutions sort of academy that you ran in Austria last summer. And I know that you guys ran a program and built a permaculture design center there. But I'd like to ask you about some of those projects as we get to the end of this conversation. What I'd like to come back to for a minute is the development of the network. I was really interested in how you guys built your network of contact and a client base in Malaga, and you approached it quite strategically. But before that, we had discussed that, you know, as you set up Biotonomy and after you met during COVID in a bar or a nightclub when Moein was trying to socialize and get outside of it, you talked about a Trojan horse or a very unique project that set out the bar for green buildings and working with nature in order to get an audience or capture an audience who would then listen to what you had to say. So can you tell us a little bit about that Trojan horse project, and then maybe we'll get into a little bit about the network and how you guys developed your network of contacts?
Yeah, it was a very interesting period for us because once again, we had to basically build our network from zero. Now that we couldn't focus globally, we had to come up with something locally. So the thing with bioautonomy is that because we develop autonomous buildings, we have a variety of different solutions when it comes to nature-based solutions. Everything from how you harvest water, filter water, recycle water, how you heat and cool buildings, how you maximize your food production, etc. So in the beginning, the first half of year, I was a bit solo here, and I was trying to sell everything. And I quickly learned that I'm confusing people because this was one guy that I was speaking to. He told me, actually, look, you're way ahead of everyone, and it's overwhelming with what you're bringing to the market. It's too revolutionizing. And the market doesn't want that. The market doesn't want to have to start from the beginning. So you should introduce something that is an improvement of a current solution. So when he said that to me, that got stuck in my head. And as I was learning more and more about Malaga, I came to realize that I was asking myself, how is the city trying to be sustainable? And as I was observing what projects they've done in the city, really the vertical gardens that the city has done, I think, a handful of vertical gardens. That was really all I could find. And once again, this for me is not ambitious enough. But so I started to study this. And Malaga really has a good climate for doing vertical gardens, but I learned quickly that they're failing very quickly, these vertical gardens, because of different reasons. And one main reason was because the nutrients in the plants was degrading pretty fast. And I also realized that they're consuming a lot of water, which in a droughted area like Malaga, vertical gardens are not really sustainable.
Sure.
So I was speaking to Miguel about the idea of doing a vertical garden that would recycle the wastewater of the building, because we've done that for over 10 years in our projects. And you were like on right away, right? Miguel was on right away, and we pitched it to some other friends, and we're like, okay, we got the interest of everyone. And we were at the same time thinking, you know, what can we do in Malaga that position us where we want to be, right? How can we make ourselves heard? And the only way is to do something no one has done before, right?
Yeah, and vertical gardens turn out to be the perfect product because of also the visibility of it, right? It's something that you can miss when it's done right and it's done in a proper place. Like it has this magnetic effect on you that you stop and look at it and take pictures, right? You can't miss it. So we found a company that was doing courses and we signed up right away. We went to learn this and basically started applying all the concepts of circularity and efficiency in water that we were doing in our buildings to the vertical gardens.
You know what's funny that I think of now? Actually, the people we were doing the course with, we pitched the idea to them to use recycled water, and they said, no, you cannot do that. That's not going to work. And actually, now that I think about it, a lot of people as well that we were, you know, we were pitching to other companies to try to get more partnerships, but a lot of people killed the idea and just said, no, that's not going to work. And then, you know, Miguel went out there and thanks to Connecting Nature Enterprise, found some partners and some European funding to apply for, and we got the money. And what's funny is that we had 1 month to get the permission for this project. And if we didn't get the permission, we wouldn't get the European funding. So that was like one of the conditions of the funding. You need to have all the administration done. So, and basically, everyone once again told us getting permission for that is impossible in 1 month. So Miguel went to the building department asking them, and they said, what, minimum 8 months, right? And basically, we understood at that point, we need to do something very, very unique to make this happen. So what we did was we started to identify all the architects in the city. We made a whole list of all the architects. Why? Because architects know how to get permission. They most likely know people in the building department. So our Miguel and Juan were basically calling all the architects in the city, and every single one turned down the offer, beside this one amazing person called Antonio Diaz, which is very well known here in Malaga for being one of the few architects who's trying to restore old buildings and keep the tradition of Malaga. And he really believed in us as people and in the project. And this was like in Christmas. And he just took the project and he was working day and night and he got the permission for this.
Because this is what happened. We basically we've been fighting to develop our first prototype for vertical garden, right? And we wanted to be with recycling water, and we partnered up with this company Biotonomy to do it. We got the funding, we got the building, an amazing building in the city center, and then the building permission said, no, you can't do it, you need to wait 6 months. And we didn't have the time to wait 6 months because the funding was going to go away. So we just went for it. And after everyone doubted us, and we had to make all sorts of convincing to have the building department support this initiative, because this was a really good product for Malaga, because Malaga is a city that is lacking green areas. It's a city that is very densely populated in some of their areas, and it's lacking green. And climate change is affecting a lot because of the heat waves and droughts. So we need to integrate the green into the city, but we're lacking 2 key conditions, which is space and water. So this was a solution that had been recognized and funded by the European Commission that would allow to integrate green areas into the city without demanding these 2 conditions. horizontal space and without water.
But this fighting for this permission, I must say that it's an experience Biotonomy has. Like, it's not the first time we're fighting for getting permission. You know, we have over 10 years of experience of fighting and in different countries. You know, I'll tell you, one of the first times I had to do that was in Sweden, where I had a client who had both the land and the funding for doing the project. And I had to go into the building department, and this was almost, I think, 12 years ago, if not more. And I had to go into a meeting with like the key decision makers for this permission. And there was, you know, the expertise in water, in sewage, in energy. And I was young at that age. I remember I was so excited because I thought, like, I made it, you know, I'm gonna make this finally, you know, do this building that's going to have all these nature-based solutions inside of it. But actually, I was laughed at in that meeting. Yeah. They were laughing at me. They were actually, and they were older. They were like, you know, 50 years plus, and they were making fun of me when I was saying that I was going to treat the sewage inside of the buildings with plants. So at that moment,
I mean, it sounds ridiculous to somebody who doesn't understand it, but I think what's evident so far from our chat is that the determination and grit it has taken you to succeed, the amount of doors you knocked on where they said no, or where they laughed, or where there wasn't a box to be ticked for nature when you were applying to the council in Malaga for a green wall. But you pushed and you pushed and you pushed, and eventually you got to succeed, and you got to realize this green wall project on Hotel Mariposa, which became a symbol of green space and nature within the city of Malaga. I think then you mentioned that you used that opportunity, or the success of that project, to invite local councillors and other architects and officials from the city to a launch event for that project. And that then led to, I guess, the growth and development of your network. What I really liked when you were talking to me about your network was that you had quite a strategic approach. So, Miguel, I think with your background, you took on chasing down and making contacts with the public sector in Malaga, if I'm correct. And then Moein and some of your other members in the team went after the private sector and hotels. Can you tell us a little bit more then about that strategy of knocking on doors and how you went about that, organizing local events and developing your contacts?
Yeah, sure. And something just to finish up with the last about Mariposa Hotel. This project got a few months ago awarded by the government of Spain for being the best renovation project in a hotel in terms of sustainability in the last year. And it's also being awarded by the city of Malaga. So all those doubts that we kind of like when decided to go forward, then turned out to be one of the most iconic projects.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that the people in the building department that was laughing at us for asking for a permission in 1 month, they've now came back to us and asked if we can train their people. So
wow.
That's a good good experience. But for your question, I mean, we went really strategic. We were a group of 4 people focusing on how to. Now we have a product, right? We have a prototype that is proving that it's working, right? So now we set up the journey for selling this, right? So as you mentioned, Kiran, we have Miguel going for the public sector because that is his expertise.
And that the reality was that we were not super convinced who to sell these to.
Yeah.
Like we had some ideas, and I think that relates to most of nature-based enterprises, which is like nature-based solutions are very attractive to a wide range of people, from private developers to public sector, universities, citizens. So you don't know, it's very easy to get lost on where to focus, right? Is it B2B, is it B2C, is it the public sector, right?
Yeah.
So
because you really need to adapt your pitch, you know, it's fundamental how you pitch it.
Yeah.
So it's like you're saying, it's challenging when you have a broad market. Who do I sell to?
Yeah, for sure.
And what was our first assumption?
We sold to everyone.
So to everyone, we had the same pitch to everyone, and we realized pretty quickly that it doesn't work. So actually, one of our team members was like, guys, we need to go for one target, and we need to adapt our pitch and everything. And at that moment, coming out of the pandemic, we were reading the news, and we assumed that pharmacies would be a good target, because out of the pandemic, we learned that pharmacies finance were thriving.
Yeah.
So we
Makes sense.
Was not making any sense
at that time. Yeah. So we made, we identified every single pharmacy in the city, all the people, we were out there knocking every door of the pharmacy, chasing them left and right. And we had this whole pitch made. And in parallel, Miguel had identified all the politicians in the city, and he was knocking the door and chasing all of them. And public sector is slow.
Yeah, public sector is slow, but it was fundamental to engage them because of this. Like the license process was, as you said very well, Kieran, because there's no regulation. Nature-based solution is something new in the market. So obviously, public sector always lags behind the private sector. Yeah, it regulates it. It needs to catch up all the time. So there was not, as you said, box to tick for, okay, this is a vertical garden permission. So they had to we had to not hide it, but just like make it so that it would fit in the code, right?
And it seems to be the case in a lot of places in Europe. We have Eleanor in France here who's telling us in the chat that the public sector, or at least the local authorities and their paperwork or their application forms, are very slow to adapt to these changes in the market. And as I said, I guess, have a box to tick for green walls or nature-based solutions. So I was interested, you said they asked you to come into the city of Malaga and put on some education or workshops for their staff. What was the focus of that?
So there was that it was key to involve them in the process. They needed, like, if we wanted to succeed and do projects in the city, we needed the city to validate our solutions and understand the benefits of it, and that there was no kind of risk, that the amount of risk that they thought they would take, it was not so much, because we were bringing all this technology behind, right? Because we specialize in mixing nature-based solutions with modern technologies, integrating artificial intelligence and all sort of like monitoring systems to ensure that there's a proper maintenance to it and that it doesn't go, that it doesn't dry out, right? So obviously we needed to communicate to the city all this and have them understand and learn the benefits of nature-based solution. Most of them didn't even have never heard about nature-based solutions, right? So we identified that the tourism sector, the environment, the city planning, and then we kind of like identified the right people to go, and we just basically started contacting them and started also throwing out events, for example, at the Mariposa Hotel, to invite everyone and see and explain the technology and the innovation. We started doing free tours of the vertical gardens and sharing all the secrets behind the innovation and the technology, not hiding, rather than hiding everything, all the technology that we had developed and that was innovative. We decided to go all transparent about it.
And I think that's really key. I think a lot of people, when they work with innovation and especially nature-based solutions, we all have, our innovation, and we're a little bit afraid of sharing it. There's that fear of, well, what if someone just comes and picks it up and and does it and conquer me, you know. But we learned very quickly that in our marketing strategy, in our sales strategy, that we would approach with giving instead of going and asking, right? So we would go to hotels and would give them for free. We would give them like a design of their facade. We would do like a technical assessment for them, give them the information, you know, things that you might charge, you know, normally. But you know, when you're a startup, you have a new product on the market, you should always focus on giving first. And as you're giving, you're building a community, you know, with all these events that we did. That's also key and fundamental. So don't be afraid of giving of what you have, you know, because you, in the end of the day, you have more experience. Like you might have done it for 5 or 10 years. No one can come and just steal that 10 years of experience from you. And the market is so big, you know, there's space for all of us. Like a market like nature-based solutions, there's space for all of us. And
that was also a key thing that we kind of like statement that we said, we don't have competitors in this area. We have allies, because the nature-based solutions, it's a growing as it's a growing market. When the nature-based solutions market develop to a certain amount, it would be enough food for everyone. We're all at one, all here, not only because of the environmental benefits, which are obvious that we all want to push for, right? But as a market and as a sector, we all will benefit from a sector thriving. So we went for all the companies and other organizations that were doing similar things. Instead of like competing against them, we would always look to collaborate with them in doing projects.
yeah, one thing if I can add on that, and then maybe Kieran, we can look if there's any questions. I see some questions popping up that we can
There's
address.
a few questions coming into the chat for sure. But just before we get to them, if people could continue to submit questions, we'll get to those. We have sort of 15, 20 minutes left here, but I was just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about two of the projects you're working on in Andalusia at the moment. If you wouldn't mind talking about them. There's one where you're working with urban wastewater from a nearby sports facility to develop a thriving vertical ecosystem in a train station.
Yeah, we have a really good story for you guys about this that I would love to share, so you get a little bit the reality we're facing. But before I jump into that, I just want to share this quick thing, because we're speaking about Mariposa and everything that led to this project is about taking risk, right? I just want to clarify that this project in Mariposa that became so successful, it's important for all of you to know that when we were doing it, we had no idea what we were doing. We had a clear vision. We believed this would work, but we were not sure, right? We believed a lot of people would be inspired by it, but we were not sure. And what's also important to know is that the funding that we got from the European Union was not enough for us to make this the way we did it. We had to invest both a lot of time. All of us, the entire team, worked completely for free, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to make this happen. Yeah. And we actually had to invest our own money in building it, which a lot of people thought we were crazy. Why would you pay for doing this for a hotel?
So just make it smaller,
right? But so we took that risk, and you have to take that risk. And we've taken so much risk before that failed. But that's a key of the recipe: is don't be afraid of taking risks, because there's a lot of valuable knowledge in those. So coming back to the current project. So obviously this has leads to many different projects that we're working on currently. And before I tell you about the specific one, the train station, I want to explain to you about the one we're doing with the city, Manzana Verde. Yeah. This is a big project that is going to be a whole neighborhood of sustainable development. Once again, what is sustainable development for the city is buildings with a lot of vegetation on the facade, but they consume a lot of water. So we reached out to them, we explained to them, look, this innovative solution that we have created where we recycle the water, we could help you to recycle 100% of the wastewater of the building. And this being the city, and we're already collaborating with them, it was pretty easy for us to be able to get this project. So in this project, it's going to be the first building in Malaga or in Spain that is recycling 100% of its wastewater. And this is it's an apartment complex of 38 apartments.
Yeah, funny enough, this is here in Malaga. We have restrictions because of the drought. People are not allowed to irrigate green areas or fill up swimming pools with fresh water. So there is a lot of both urbanizations, hotels that have gardens that are a big part of their facilities, right? And they cannot irrigate it, so they are going dry. And we're still in April, so there is a big drama coming in for the summer when hotels and urbanizations will not be able to irrigate the green areas, right? So as this is happening, these architects are building a building with lots of greeneries because it had been planned many years ago, right? And they were like, they told us it doesn't make sense now to all this greenery because we will not be able to irrigate. How do we do, right? And we made the calculation for them of how much wastewater was going to be produced from all the apartments in the building, and it matched almost perfectly the amount of water that they needed for irrigating all those areas all those green areas that they have projected, right? So it was about, with this system, they will be able to save up to 5 million liters of water per year. And it's a system that is really not expensive, and it allows them to be it will allow them to be the first prototype of a building that will reuse 100% of their wastewater, probably in Spain. We haven't
without any additional cost on ecosystem services or water, it's using what's already there as wastewater, putting it back through the building and into your vertical gardens features.
And the whole added value that you get for including all this vegetation when nobody else is even being able to include.
And you don't have to be in a droughted area to believe that this is common sense, right? This is all about the circularity. Even if you have abundant amount of water, still each building should be responsible of reusing its wastewater. So this project is now getting converted from the design and engineering. It just finished the engineering phase, so we've been part of a big engineering team helping to do the engineering solutions, and now it's getting transferred into the construction. I think by next year, this 6 month, all the administration work needs to be done by the city, and then hopefully by next year we will break the ground and actually have a fully building apartment up with these solutions. That's the one. And the other one that you mentioned, I want to take the opportunity to explain to you guys, because this just happened two days ago for us, to share with you all what kind of challenges we're really facing. And this is why we're doing this. This. We had this area in Malaga called Ronda, which is very well known for being one of the greenest areas, and it has amazing culture and history as well. And we came in contact with them, and they just fell in love with our solutions. And we got to meet with the mayor of this area, and we got to pitch our project. And it didn't take a long time for them to be convinced and be like, this is so aligned with this town and with what we want to do. And so let's find a project where we can implement this solution. So they showed us a couple of different projects, and then one of them was this train station, and some other ones we're still looking into with them. So we went ahead and we once again we gave them a design for free. You know, once again, this is our sales strategies that we first did. And they loved it. They loved the design, and they were completely up for doing it. And even the mayor, Miguel, met with the mayor, and she was convinced. We had to show all the numbers of how much it cost to install, how much it cost to maintain, etc. And they agreed upon everything. Then came a complaint. There came a complaint from the architect who has designed the facade of the train station.
Project was very
Yeah, and the project was already approved by the mayor, and we were basically getting the team and everyone ready to start going into execution. Then came a complaint from the architect who have designed this train station, and this is also a challenging thing with the city, is that all their projects was designed 5 years ago because they're so small. So to the moment when they come to implement it, it's all out there, right? So this facade of this train shed is just pure concrete. It's just pure concrete block. And the architect is right now stating that we are not allowed to put this vegetation on this facade because this concrete is a part of his artistic design of the train station. So we're right now in the conversation between the mayor and the architects of you know, trying to close this project again, but we keep getting these challenges over and over, but we're not giving up. So we're still in conversation with the mayor and trying to basically see if we can move forward.
It's the construction industry. It's a sector that is somehow very. It's sometimes not so open to innovation, right?
Sometimes.
That says to put it nice, because it's also a sector. It's very technified. Yes, there's a lot of regulations around it that obviously are there to protect us, and to make sure that the right materials are used, that they don't give cancer, and that the buildings don't fall apart, obviously, right? But when it's so technified, most of the times it does also. What happens is that it also like suffocates innovation. It's very, very difficult to innovate because of what we were saying before, right? There's not a box to click for vertical garden when you're asking for a license, right? So sometimes there's a lot of fear into adding for architects or for like the city workers to add this to work with this innovation.
Well, architects specifically, sorry for interrupting you, it's unfortunate, but they feel many times, they feel like an insult when we come and add an ecosystem on their facade, because for them, their building is a piece of art, which is, to me, the fundamental problem to why our cities look the way they look. They're all designed based on, I don't like to use this term, but based on the ego of many architects.
That's the word that was in my head.
They want to establish their work, but it's not designed based on the well-being of the people, the city, the nature, right? So many times when we come and we propose these ecosystems, these vertical ecosystems, the architects are always fighting us. And this is not the first time it happens. We had this in some of the buildings in the city as well. And it's funny because they're just pure white concrete walls. And their argument is always that these are artistic part of the building. We don't agree with that, but we have a very collaborative approach. So we always try to reach out with the architects and teach them and involve them and include them and be like, hey, you're part of this journey. Any award that comes out of this project is yours. You get to be the front face of it. Basically, that's our way of convincing them.
Great, guys. I'm just conscious of time, so we've 5 minutes left. for the hour that we sort of said we'd do, but we might stay on. Just if people have the time to stick with us, we'll go through a few of the questions. I see one here in the chat, guys, in relation to finance. I know you've touched on it somewhat with your Trojan Horse project in Hotel Mariposa, but how did you manage finances in those early days? Were you funded enough? I know we discussed that it's almost a badge of honor for entrepreneurs in the early days that there isn't always money coming in. Sometimes you are worrying, stressing about, well, how are we paying the next bill? How are we paying next month's wages? Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey in a financial sense?
Yeah, that's whoever asked that question, that's a really good question, because that was a key turning point for Biotonomy. Before, I used to, this comes back a lot to my mindset. Before, I used to have a mindset that sales and marketing is something bad. You know, I had this mindset that it's something you force people to do. You try to sell them something that they don't want. So I didn't want to be like that. So I didn't apply that. So before, Biotonomy's team the majority of the team would be engineers, architects, and constructors. And I would be the only single person trying to sell projects. But as I grew up and I learned more and I got more entrepreneurs in my network, more and more people started to tell me, Moein, you need to focus more on sales. It's the only way to deal with your finance. So I made a pivot and I basically started to hiring more people who work with sales and marketing. And today, actually, the majority of our team is working with sales and marketing. And I think we have this within this community, especially the nature-based community, environmental community in general. I think we all have this mindset that sales and marketing is something dirty. But actually, you know, if we learn from all these big brands that are using it and making a lot of finance out of it, and we implement it in our solutions, we can solve a lot of our financial problems. So if you're struggling financially, it's because you don't have enough customers. And if you don't have enough customers, it's because you don't have a sales team. So that's really the key shift. And we've been offered investors and people funding the company, but we've turned it down because it hasn't been people who we resonate with, or it hasn't been people who resonate with our vision necessarily. So Biotonomy is today 100% self-funded.
And something about that is, I think it's also worth mentioning is, at the beginning, when we decided to partner up and the first projects were not coming yet, we made a statement between each other. We don't want to take just whatever work they put on our table, right? We don't want to do, for example, plastic vertical garden. We will offer a lot of time to do this plastic whatever, or this decoration, or this that was going out of our focus.
I've seen them around, yeah.
And that's really a key. It's a really hard decision sometimes when you see that there's not enough money coming in to pay all the wages, but there's work which is made sometimes even better paid than the work you do, but it's not aligned properly with your purpose or with your vision or where you want to go. And we still decided we are not going to compromise Biotonomy's vision and mission for just being able to pay wages. And even at the time, a few of us had to have a side hustle in order to bring enough money for a couple of months, right? Yeah. So that we could keep Biotonomy focused on what we thought it was important to have it focused. And I think time has gave us, like looking now backwards, I think was a great decision. And even if we had to work on weekends or whatever, that was, I think, the right decision.
But yeah, to basically summarize this, because this is a very important question, and I think that's why many people are here. focus more on sales and marketing. And the thing is that I'm noticing in this community is that if you don't focus on, because what sales is you're helping people, especially every single one of you who are here. I know by heart that you all are passionate of what you're doing, and all your solutions will help people. So if you have the mindset that you are not selling something, you're helping people, then you will be genuine. And when you approach people when you're genuine, it's so much easier. And really what sales is structured communication. Like you need to learn how to simplify your pitch, how to make, because what we all do is very scientific. We can get so much into biology, and the average people don't understand this, So you really need to work on yourselves. You really, really need to get your pitch simplified so most people just pick it up like that. You don't need to attend a 1-hour webinar to really understand what you're doing.
No, I think it's really clear like that from your early days and all the hard work and the long hours and the failures and closed doors, it took you so long and so much effort to get that initial Trojan horse in through the walls of the county council or the municipality. And once you were in there, your foot was in the door and you began to organize events, invite people, talk to them more. And what's key for me is that sales and marketing piece where you took what in your previous attitude was a dirty word and began to not just cold call or ring people and say, I want to talk to you. It was an invitation and an offering to say, we invite you to our event, or we'd like to give you a guided tour of the walled garden we've installed at the Mariposa Hotel, or it was, we'd like to come in and do a free consultancy or a concept for your hotel or for your project. And from there, you began to develop trust and relationships. One just other question I have here, this is from Bianca. She said, could you guys speak a bit about your thoughts on the interaction and perceptions of using green soft solutions and knowledge and merging this with innovating technology and AI?
Green soft solution. I'm not sure what you're referring to with green soft solution.
I think maybe in terms of nature-based solutions and integrating ecosystem services in your work, how has technology or AI complemented that?
Right. Okay. Key thing. Really, really important. Because the thing with nature is, it can go in any direction, right? There's so many factors involved in, the well-being of the plants. So having data is fundamental. It's so important. Like,
what data do you have?
So we're measuring, and we have live data that we're monitoring all the time. Like in terms of the vertical ecosystem, where we are measuring the pH values live, the electroconductivity, the nutrients levels, the humidity levels, the temperatures. And now we're also starting to integrate a biodiversity measurement. So these things are key. Because what happens is that, you might look at our photos from the vertical ecosystem, and a lot of them look really good. But we also have some plants that don't make it, and something happens, and we're always able to go back and look at our data and analyze what happened. Right? So we can clearly see in certain sections of the wall, we have really low pH that we didn't pay attention to, but the plants clearly showed us what happened. So this integration of technology and artificial intelligence is going to be a game changer for all. I'm completely obsessed with artificial intelligence. I have dyslexia as a person, so anything that helps me with writing gets my interest, and that's how I got super excited. And now I'm like really geeking about AI, and we're using it in the team because it's really the future. It's going to be a game changer, both in a destructive way, but also in a very positive way, right? But we have chosen to be part of the positive way. So monitoring the plants, helping, making the plant growth more efficient, reducing the water efficiency.
Yeah, it's key for two. I would name like two key things that this gives us, right? The integration of technology with NBS is that it gives us data that we use for one, ensuring a proper growth and maintenance of our vegetation, right? We get the information, so we are able to sense, as you say, the humidity, the temperature, get any potential disturbance to the kind of like level that we want, and this allows us to go and maintain, like, anticipate problems. We don't go. We've met with so many people that did vertical gardens that there was a problem and we realized it because there was a problem because the garden dried out. Okay, now it's too late. Now you need to replant everything. This implies a lot of costs. So data allows us to prevent this problem and act before situations happen. And then the other key factor is that we use technology, and we also collaborate with the University of Malaga to do this, and is to collect information for assessing the impact of the projects, right? And this helps us to many things, just from the selling, because we are able to give data of how much energy efficiency you're gonna have, how much oxygen or carbon dioxide this is taking. So this helps a lot of our communication and the sales. And we also, and this helps also push for improving the regulations, as we were speaking, because this is something even if we cannot only focus on selling, we also need to focus. That's why we are also so engaged with the public sector, because we are also pushing for change in the regulations. And that's a key thing. If we want to thrive, our business to thrive, we will need process for applying for licenses that are way easier. We need to have this relationship and this trust from the market, right?
I think
I have to add some. Sorry, Kieran. This AI subject is really exciting for me. And one thing we're working on right now, we're working on getting the funding for it, is to integrate AI cameras on the facade, and so we can measure the social values of the project. Because what these cameras can do is they can measure how many people stop by the ecosystem and how many people take picture of it, because they call this building one of the most photographed buildings in Malaga, and we want to prove that with data. And also, where are people looking? Like, where is the interest? What plants are putting a smile on people's face? Because you can also measure the smile. So the AI integration is something we're super excited about.
Yeah.
Very good. Guys, I just have one other comment here in the chat. This is from Paddy Matthews, and I know Paddy, actually. Paddy is a director with Fáilte Ireland. He's the National Tourist Board here in Ireland. Paddy is overseeing a project with the EU Just Transition Fund in the Midlands of Ireland, where they're helping local communities and families transition from businesses and an economy based on peatlands and bog extraction. They're transitioning to regenerative and ecotourism. And so Paddy says, this is really inspiring, and thanks to Moein and Miguel. He works for a government tourism agency that funds new tourism development, trying to adopt a more regenerative approach to tourism development. It's necessary that we do so. Unfortunately, the public sector will always be a few steps behind these types of innovations. One way to accelerate that change is necessary to incorporate nature into the destination brand. And so that protecting nature, using nature-based solutions, becomes part of the identity of the place. He's very interested to talk to you both more about your work with hotels and destinations. Can you talk to us just a little bit? I know you started looking at pharmacies, and then you realized that tourism and hotels, particularly being in Malaga, is a good avenue of sales leads and business development for you. How have you progressed that from Hotel Mariposa?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, it's always a fine balance between knowing when to continue with what you had identified that was your strategy, right, to go to the market, and when it's time to pivot, right? And it's when we work with innovation and we're a startup, is learning like and being able to assess those moments at the right time it's a key thing. And we've been very also within our broad range of services, we've been also focusing like or pivoting was where to focus, right? What's our niche market, what's our customer, where's our target? And we started with the pharmacies. We realized this was not our ideal customer profile. Then we invested a lot of time in selling to the public sector, but then the bureaucracy and the timings of the public sector
wasn't bringing cash flow.
Wasn't bringing cash flow at all. Even if it was so interesting for them and everybody loved and they were convinced of it, just the administration process of hiring a company from the public sector and the times of the project, it was it was consuming all our resources.
I mean, we're still doing that, but we've realized these are all long shots.
Yeah.
So we do it. Yeah. What is our cash flow?
And after we focused a lot in selling to people that would work with environment, right, or that would work with urbanism. And after a long, like trying different stuff, we realized that the tourist was a really good sector for us, right? And we realized that because the tourist sector is way more innovative sector, right? It's a sector that always needs to be up to date with innovation and be like
evolving
itself to keep attracting the tourists, because there's so many attractive touristy places, right? And so many hotels, and it's a strong sector here in Malaga. And then as we started going into the tourist sector, we started to learn more about the challenges that have the tourist sector that is not necessarily the same that the construction sector has or the environmental sector has. So that's the way we've always been able to adapt our pitch and pivot based on where are the challenges. How can we meet the challenge? And now lately.
But one thing we learned also strategically for the rest of you to have in mind, the tourist industry has a lot of public-private organizations that are out there that are helping new startups to come into the industry, because they're always making sure that the industry is at the forefront of innovation. So there was a lot of these public-private organizations that took us under their wing, and they were like, what you guys have is exactly what the industry needs. And what they did was they started to take us on different exhibitions in relationship to tourism. And they already have a big network. So they started connecting us with very key players in the tourist industry. And it's really like we came into the community, right? We learned all the players, we got invited by the key players. So, just remember every target that you identify as good for you, there's a whole community built around that. And you just need to find your way inside the community and start building relationships. Like now we've made so much, like a lot of hotel directors are our friends. Like we go out, we have dinner with them. So, we build relationships. It's all about building the relationships.
And identifying what's really there, like not being able, like we do this, and we were very like kind of at the beginning, this is what we do. You want it or not? No, like, no, let's learn, like let's connect with the person first, identify their challenges, let him really like express to you what's his challenge, like what's his pain point, right? Because sometimes even if he wants to do this, there's not funding or there's like a regulation happening, and you really need to understand how to go around this specific person or business in order to create value for them, how to help them, right? Not being able to to throw something at them that they might not need, but really understand and be able to provide value.
This is
to these people.
what Miguel's saying is key, and we made this mistake ourselves, is that many times, being the tourist industry or whatever, people approach people and start pitching and talking a lot.
Mhm.
But ever since we changed that, what we do now is that we listen first before we talk. We go there, listen, because even if you're working with the tourist industry, every hotel has their different challenges, right? So try to understand and then offer something adapted to them.
And
I
now
think that-
the key challenge is water. So we've pivoted a lot and we're way more focused on water now than in vertical ecosystem, for example. We're obviously also doing a lot of vertical ecosystem projects, but the focus now is water because this is what the market is demanding.
And it seems like, I mean, your approach to relationships, you sort of went from talking about what you had to offer to listening to what people needed. And it seems like that approach to relationships is very much Biotonomy's experience with the market as well in terms of nature-based solutions. You initially tried to do everything and talk to everybody and tell everybody about your purpose and your vision, and you still kept your vision and your purpose central to it, but I think you started to open up and listen to the market and listen to what other people were telling you, and that has led you from, I think, from pharmacies to hotels to the public sector and to now to the conservation of water and recycling water systems, and just then how you package that for different clients. So look, guys, I think we've run over a little bit. It's coming up on 4:20 here in Ireland, 5:20 where you guys are. So I think we're going to have to leave it there. Sorry to any questions we haven't got to today, but do leave them there. I'll share them with Miguel and Moein after this. The recording of this session we will make available on our YouTube channel, and it will be up on the Connecting Nature platform next week. It'll also be on Biotonomy's social media channels, no doubt. Do check the guys out. They're always open to a chat or a conversation, and they have a wealth of information to share. Have a look at their website as well. There's so much to learn there from what they've worked on. In relation to the Connecting Nature Enterprise platform, please do, if you've enjoyed this session, register on the platform. Next month, we have Felix Rieken from Northern Germany. He's talking to us about regenerative agriculture on his farm just north of Hamburg, where he's also involved in agri-tourism as well as agroforestry, and supplies his own produce to 1,200 local families, cafes, restaurants, businesses. So tune in next month. Keep an eye on the website. Moein and Miguel, thank you again for another fascinating conversation. Any last words before we go?
Yeah, I'd just like to invite everyone to come and connect with us. We're very active on LinkedIn. It's a very amazing platform. So please connect with me and Miguel there. And if there's any questions we didn't have time to address, just send me a DM, send Miguel a DM. We love to connect with the community. We love to know all of you guys out there, and let's connect and chat, and hopefully maybe we can do projects all together one day.
Yeah, for sure.
Miguel, Moein, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kieran.